We had just announced to everyone that we were expecting triplets.
We were ecstatic. This is perfect. This is awesome, right? 4 kids, just like we'd always envisioned. And pregnancy's going great. We go to our 10-week appointment, 3 babies, 3 heartbeats, fantastic.
So right before the second trimester, we went in for a routine checkup, and I discovered that our triplet B no longer had a heartbeat. It was devastating. That's kind of how we learned that Nicholas was gonna have an issue. I was scared. I was vulnerable and confused. Our family was blessed with triplets, and all of a sudden it went from 3 down to 2, potentially down to 1 or none. When I arrived and I saw the doctors, they determined that I was having preeclampsia symptoms. My twins were in distress, and that day my kids were going to be born. I just remember being terrified because I didn't know if this was going to be the last time I was going to feel him. They stopped kicking. I delivered, and the first thing I heard was Nicholas's cry.
We met Carly Rizo and her husband Eric before the twins were born, and we knew that one of the twins had a significant cardiac difference, and so we were able to provide the counseling and at least get them prepared as you can be in a situation like this.
I just remember seeing him swaddled, and the doctors were like, "We need to take him." I never saw Nicholas again for 6 days. I didn't know what was gonna happen.
It's tough seeing your kid struggle. It's just, he was so young, so fragile.
While I was holding Nicholas, he reached over to Sebastian's head and just kind of gently put his hand on Sebastian's head, like, "Hey, brother, I'm here. I'm gonna hold on."
It was this incredible moment of brotherhood and family, and it was something that I'll remember forever.
And then 3 days later, he had his first open heart surgery.
And those first 7 weeks that Nicholas was in the hospital, it was this tough road to navigate of, well, how are we going to be here with Nicholas, have a newborn baby? We're about 50 miles out in the western suburbs.
We were fortunate to stay at the Ronald McDonald House. This was the time in Nicholas's life where it was touch and go.
And cardiologists were following him very closely, said we're ready for his next open heart surgery.
They started off with complex cardiac issues, probably not expecting problems with his breathing too. And then what does this mean? Another surgery, which is getting the tracheostomy in, and then at least 2 months in the hospital more just to figure out which ventilator he's going to go home on. They're essentially taking over as medical caregivers for their children after they leave the hospital. You can think about this as families pretty much have an ICU set up in their home. So you can imagine how intensive that care is and the burden it can really place on their caregivers and parents.
We were there for almost a full year at the hospital. A lot of new medical terminology getting thrown at us, and it was nice to know that we were not going through this alone.
It gave us a sense of stability. And without that stability, I don't know how everything would have played out. Being at home, being over an hour away from our son would have just been torture. By staying at the Ronald McDonald House, we were able to have our meals together. We were able to go to bed together as a family, wake up and see each other the next day, and even go see Nicholas. So it was home. You're giving us a chance to never miss a heartbeat of our children and the ability to be by their side in our pivotal moments, the saddest moments of our lives. The last thing we want to have to think about is where we're going to stay and how we're going to come back to the hospital every day. You're giving us the ability to always be by our children. Always, always, always by their side. And I will never take that for granted.
I'm so glad that I got to spend every single day with him and be with him in his journey, and to make sure that he continued to feel loved and remembered. And, every moment really did mean the world for him. I genuinely do not know what we would have done without Ronald McDonald House. It was an absolute godsend. It would have been impossible for us to stay nearby and to be with him every single day. The moments, they mattered.